so that, no.
Coming in hot. Good evening, everyone. Before I get started, is Deacon Brigitte Bechtold here? I don't see the deacon. All right, please rise for our invocation and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. We give you thanks, Father in heaven, for the blessings of this beautiful day and for the blessings that you've given each and every one of us here in the city of Troy, Michigan. We ask that you continue to bless us and grant us with peace this evening. Protect us on our streets with our public safety, first responders. Please be with all of the people in this council chamber, whether sitting up here at the dais or out in the audience. Help us be respectful, full of decorum, and caring. Please ensure that we all remain in good health and that we be with those who need our help, and be mindfully aware that it's a very difficult time for many people in this city and country and world, and we need to always think about others. In his name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I suppose this is a good time to say, please silence your cell phones. We'll call the December 4th, 2023 Troy City Council meeting to order and ask for the roll call from Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Crenga? Councilmember Gunn?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Here.
We have quorum this evening. Councilmember Chamberlain-Crenga will be appearing virtually via Zoom. She can participate in discussion, but she is unable to vote, so I will move the resolution to excuse her in-person absence. So resolve that Troy City Council hereby excuses the absence of Councilmember Rebecca Chamberlain-Crenga at the regular City Council meeting of December 4th, 2023 due to an illness.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, that we approve the excused in-person absence of Councilmember Chamberlain-Crenga as read into the record. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. So as a reminder, she will be here. You'll see her on the screens, and she is permitted to speak during discussion, but cannot cast any votes this evening. First up are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have two this evening. I'm sure you're all here for the audit presentation this evening. I'm to shut up. No pressure, Rob. But first up is C1, a certificate of recognition and congratulations to the Athens High School 2023 Boys Varsity Soccer Team, MHSAA Division I State Champions. So if the soccer team would join me down at the podium, I'd like to present a proclamation. Everyone's taking your seats, but that's all right. Well, good evening, guys. Thanks for coming in tonight. Really excited about this. We followed your success and everything, and when you won, I was like, oh, Cindy, we got to do a proclamation to celebrate you in person here. So really excited. I'm going to read this proclamation into the record, and I'll keep the trophy. I mean, it looks kind of cool. There we go. All right, so this is a certificate of recognition and congratulations to the Athens High School 2023 Boys Varsity Soccer Team, MHSAA Division I State Champions. Whereas the Athens High School 2023 Boys Varsity Soccer Team won the Michigan High School Athletic Association Division I Boys Soccer Championship on November 4th, 2023 in Grand Ledge, beating Brighton High School 2-1 in overtime for the title. And whereas the come-from-behind win gave Troy Athens its second state championship since 2019 and the sixth state title in Athens soccer history. Athens dominated the overtime period, outshooting Brighton 10-1 overall and 8-0 on goal. And whereas special commendation is due to captains Brody Fonestock, close enough with the name, Alex Marine, Manny Agbedo, And team members Vanch Baxi, Jason Buna, Charlie Siak, Travis Claypool, Mark Delicat, Luke DiGiovanni, Ferris El Makruki, Adam Etheridge, Gavin Faro, Rodrigo Garcia, Jake Gruca, Braden Hupman, JD Hupman, Luke Izzo, Daniel Cadu, Dario Cadu, Roshan Khan, Griffin LeBay, Ethan Liu, Nick, does your dad cut hair? Sorry, we'll get back to that. My apologies. Joey Mendrick, Kevin Amir Tolari, Ethan Rem, Brady Roskelley, Nick Rossi, Adriano Shia, Miguel Ramirez Vanegas. That's a lot of names. Apologize, guys. And whereas this has been an exciting, hard-fought soccer season with a 23-2 record, and we are proud of the title you have earned and the winning reputation you have brought to our community and your school. There is no substitute for experience, as the Redhawks had 16 seniors. The Redhawks had 13 shutouts for the season and allowed a total of just 18 goals in 25 games. The team also came from behind in 5 out of 7 playoff games. It's awesome. And whereas we applaud and congratulate boys varsity soccer head coach Todd Hugh, who took over in 2011 and is only the second coach in Athens boys soccer history. With this victory, Coach Hugh has now won a state championship as a player for Athens High in 1989 and 2 as a coach. Also, congratulations to assistant coaches Frank Mancini, Jason Fawcett, Tim Hickey, Chris Conklin, and trainer Brian Troll Baines for their commitment to the Athens High boys varsity soccer team. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Troy commends the Athens High School 2023 boys varsity soccer team for their fine efforts and extends this token of affection and admiration with which you are regarded in this city. And be it further resolved that the City Council and the City of Troy joins the citizens of this community in appreciation and celebration of the 2023 Athens High School boys varsity soccer team as the MHSSA Division I state champions. This proclamation is presented this 4th day of December 2023. It's signed by myself as mayor and all members of our Troy City Council. I don't know who to present it to. Captains are behind you. All right, Captains, come on in. You can take it right there. We congratulate you.
Gotta get in there, Tom.
Squeeze in.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's better.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. You guys sticking around for the audit presentation? Big old homework?
I'm here for the audit.
I know, but I need someone.
Congratulations, coaches. Well done. Well done. Well done. Thank you.
I'll get you some. Yeah, let's
Take your seat. There's empty seats now, everybody. Don't. It'll be a long time standing otherwise.
The nerves of having all those comeback victories. Oof. I'll give it a
Those
sec.
would have been fun games, right?
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Wrong pen. Oh, well.
All right, I think we can do this now. All right, next up is C2, our audit presentation, City of Troy 2023. That'll be presented by our Chief Financial Officer, Rob Malzik. How are you doing, Rob?
Good. Are you ready, or?
I'm ready, as long as everyone, I don't know if everyone's going to applaud for you, though. Which is against our council rules anyway, so let's,
Yeah, we don't want to break rules, right?
Right.
Ready?
A lot of people here. Yeah.
Getting a few people settled in.
There's still more people coming in. Do we need to, I guess there's no overflow anywhere for them. Right. Go ahead, Rob.
Just opened up the second set of doors back there. I haven't done that in a long time.
I'm ready when you are.
Still a few seats.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I wanted to mention to you that we're going to do this a little different than what you're used to in the past. In the past, what's happened is our financial team has given you a presentation of about 10 to 12 slides of a lot of financial data, but you've seen that financial data year in and year out. And so with the change in auditor that you approved earlier this year, I thought this was a good time to get to a different format. And the reason why I want to do it in a different format is because the audit truly is about an independent review of our books. And so I want you to hear from the auditor more than just me. Now, myself and my team, Kyle Veith, our financial compliance manager, and Deanne Irby, our controller, are here tonight. And we're here to answer any questions you guys have for us. But I think the presentation should be and will be from our auditor, and Mark agreed with me. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Alan Panter. He's the auditor of Yo and Yo, and he's got about 10 to 12 slides, and I think he might go in a little more depth this year, but I've asked him to keep it brief, but you ask as many questions as you want to Alan or to our team. I do want to say before I turn it over, though, that a first-year audit is a lot of work. Our team, especially both Kyle and Deanne and the rest of the finance team, worked their tails off to make sure that we had a good audit and a good transition. And then Alan's team, they had about 5 auditors out here, and his manager, Chrissy Lavielle, and Alan as a partner, I know they worked their tails off too. So I think it was a great transition. It was, I think, very smooth, and he'll talk on that. But I'm going to turn it over to Alan now. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us or him. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. Evening. Hey, Alan, how are you?
Good. As Rob said, my name is Alan Panter. I'm a partner at Yo and Yo, and I'm here to present the audit. You've got some materials that I want to just kind of briefly go over. You have the larger bound document, the annual comprehensive financial report. You have a smaller bound document. This is the single audit or federal compliance report. There's a stapled letter. I call this the governance letter. And then there's my presentation, which we've printed out, and we're going to show it up on the, it's actually right there on the screen as we go. So, all right, as Rob said, the audit went really well. In the first year, there's always more work. We have to draft the financial statements from scratch. We have to get an understanding of internal controls from, basically zero, coming in cold, and we have to compile our permanent file documents. We have to do all those things in a first-year audit, so that's what happens there. The finance staff of the city did a great job of pulling together all the information, responding to our information requests, just dealing with us and working with us throughout the process, so that was fantastic. We really appreciated how well the city was prepared for the audit, and really everything went as scheduled very smoothly, and we really appreciate that. So I'd really like to thank that everyone that we worked with at the city. We worked with quite a few different people, but as Rob said, it was mostly Rob, Deanne, and Kyle, and they did a fantastic job of pulling everything together and working with us the whole time. So thank you very much. Our audit included an examination of internal controls and certain aspects of legal compliance. As well, and based on that study of internal controls and compliance, we have a responsibility to communicate in writing when we find issues. Based on that study of internal control and compliance, we have no audit findings, no management letter comments. So those are things that, when we as auditors find something wrong, we'll report it. It'll be in writing. But we don't have any of those this year. That's a very positive reflection on the city. It's a very positive reflection on the management of the city. So that's a very good thing. So my plan for this evening is to give you an overview of the audit results, and give you a few highlights of the audited financial statements. As Rob said, we're going to attack it a little differently than I guess has been done in the past. I don't intend to take a ton of your time or go into a great deal of depth, but please interrupt me with questions if you have them. Okay, so we're going to advance the slide here. And I'm going to go past the first one. Okay. Oh, there it goes. Okay. The first slide deals with the independent auditor's report. The purpose of an audit is to give you an opinion on your financial statements, not to detect fraud and not to give assurance on internal control. So it's a very important concept about what it is that we're here to do. We're here to give you an opinion on your financial statements, which is what you see referenced here. We're giving what's called an unmodified or clean opinion. That is the best opinion you can get, and it means a couple of things. It means, first of all, the statements are formatted in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So in other words, everything that's supposed to be in the statements is there. And also based on the procedures that we perform, the numbers are good. So unmodified opinion is definitely what you want to see. Okay. Okay, I'm going to start off with a real quick definition here because the next few slides deal with a concept of governmental funds. So governmental fund is your funds are basically broken down into two buckets, I'll say. One is governmental and one is your enterprise funds or your business type activities. These next few slides are going to deal with your governmental funds. So that's your general fund, your debt service funds, your capital projects funds, and all that. What that does not include is water and sewer and the golf courses. And I've got a couple of slides for those later on. So that's really kind of what we're looking at on these next few slides is the governmental activities. Most of it's the general fund, but you've got some significant other funds in there as well. The first one is a 5-year graph of total revenues, expenditures, and resulting fund balances. So the revenues are in blue, the expenditures are in orange, and then there's two lines on the graph. Down at the bottom, we've also plotted capital outlay. So capital outlay is the amounts that you guys are spending or the city is spending as investments in the community and infrastructure and those sorts of things. Think about parks and roads and those kinds of things, police vehicles, all those sorts of things. And then the line above it that's kind of going up and then gently down, that is the total fund balances. So that, and it shows kind of in relation to the revenues and expenditures. So what you can kind of see from this graph is that the revenues are up this year, and that they're pretty much, let me get to where I had that in my notes. The revenues have bounced around a bit, but we'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. The expenditures don't seem to fluctuate much year over year, so you can see 2019, 20, 21, 22, pretty flat, but it was up this year. The reasons for that was there was more capital outlay this year, so that's a good thing. Those are investments in your community. And also, there was a closure of the Volunteer Firemen's Incentive Program, the VFIP. So there was an additional expenditure that way to pay off those participants in the VFIP. And you're going to see that show up a couple of times. Fund balances were going up from 2019 to 2021, but they've trended downward the last couple of years with those additional expenditures that I talked about. Okay. This graph here deals with revenues, and again, we're on these governmental funds. And what we did here is we broke down the 5 largest sources of revenue in the governmental funds, and we plotted them against each other to show you a trend. So property taxes there, you can see that that's far and away the largest source of revenue that the city has, and you can see kind of the annual trend of year over year, and that just represents the growth in the taxable value base in the city. You can also see that there's intergovernmental sources, so that's state share revenue and federal grants, state grants, all that sort of thing. Charges for services, so in other words, when people purchase services from the city, building permits, those sorts of things, that's in there. Licenses and fines, investment earnings and loss. You can see that there's actually a loss this year, and that gets shown as a negative revenue. It's kind of unusual. And then there's everything else is other. So let's see, intergovernmental revenues are up the last 3 years, you can see. That's basically due to various COVID relief programs. And charges for services have been trending upwards, and now you can see that the 2023 levels is really close to 2019, which was pre-COVID. And then the investments, you can see that the city's been losing money on its investments the last 3 years, so hopefully the market conditions will get better, and that'll turn around. All right, on the expenditure side, same idea as far as how this graph is put together. We've put together 8 main expenditure areas that the city had. So like most communities, public safety is the largest cost center. You can see that these expenditures are in a fairly narrow range until this year, and that's the impact of the VFIP closure. So you can see those expenditures are there in public safety. You can see that the city has continued to invest in its parks and capital outlay. So the capital outlay there is mostly roads and parks, which has been, and there have been several projects there in the last few years. And one other thing to notice is that on the far right there, the debt service, that's very low. The city has continued to make these ongoing investments in the infrastructure, in things like closing the VFIP and all the things that the city has been done, but it has not been done by the issuance of debt. So there's very little debt that the city has in comparison to, the scope of the entity as a whole. So that's something to really kind of hone in on there as well. Capital outlay, this is a 10-year graph, and this kind of shows you the magnitude of those investments that have been made in the city's infrastructure over the last 10 years. So you can see it's going up recently, and my understanding is that 2024 is going to continue that positive upward trend. This next one I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. This is the breakdown of how the fund balances look between non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. The unassigned is just the general fund, so that's where that lives. And as you can see, that kind of bounces around a little bit. It's down a little bit this year, but you can also see that it compares very favorably to 2019, in other words, pre-COVID. The non-spendable, that is amounts that have been advanced to the golf course, Sanctuary Lake Golf Course, and the Aquatic Center. So that's what that is sitting there. I'm going to change gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about the water fund. And then the sewer graph is going to be right after, and they're formatted the same way. So I like to use graphs to analyze funds like this that are supported by user charges, because it really helps to see those historical trends that drive the results that we're seeing. So first of all, you can see that every year the expenses of the water fund exceed the revenues by a little bit, and that means that the amounts being billed to customers don't cover the cost of the operating of the system. And what that causes is, you see the other line on there is the restricted net, or the unrestricted, it should say unrestricted net, it does say unrestricted net, but I'm sorry. The green line there is the unrestricted net position, and you can see that trending down, and that's because the expenses exceed the revenue each year. I understand that the city has routinely increased rates in those funds, and I think that trend is going to need to continue so that you have sufficient resources to operate the system. One really positive thing about this is the line along the top, that's your net investment in capital assets. That's the amount of your water system minus depreciation minus any debt. The debt there, again, is fairly minimal. So the system has been financed by user charges and as opposed to debt. And the other thing that's very positive about this is how far up that line is. So you've got, that's in relation to your annual revenues and expenditures, and also the fact that it's trending upwards. So it's got an upwards shape to it, and that means that your annual investments are more than the depreciation against it every year. So you're continuing to add to that water system. So that's a very positive thing. The next graph is very similar, deals with the sewer system. A little bit more in terms of annual operating deficit, so that the revenues do not cover the expenses of the system. And as you can see, that green line trending down, that's your unrestricted net position or your fund balance going down. And then again, the other line there is similar to the water system. The net investment in capital assets is trending upwards as well. So that's a good positive trend. Okay, I have two more things I want to just very quickly touch on. The first is the governance letter, and that's this letter that I held up here. Discusses any estimates used, and this is a letter that we issue every time we do an audit. It has various items for the information of the council. It talks about any estimates used in preparing the financial statements, any new accounting standards, some informational items, discusses any disagreements or difficulties that we had, which of course we had none of those. Any misstatements we noted, which we noted, there were a couple of uncorrected misstatements, but those are minor and they're listed there, and those adjustments were passed on because they're minor. If we had any management comments, those would be in here as well, but we don't have any, so the letter is short and sweet. So just what you want to see. Okay, my last slide deals with the single audit report. So as the city expended this year about $1.9 million in federal awards, which means that you need a federal compliance or a single audit. So we did that compliance testing. Most of that $1.9 million was expended on the ARPA program that was through the U.S. Department of Treasury. So that was selected, and we did specific internal control testing and compliance testing on the ARPA grant. So we had no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and we had no compliance findings related to those programs. If you have any questions, that's all I have.
Thanks, Alan. Any questions for Alan or for city staff? Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga, did you have anything? Sorry, I realized I don't see you, but I wouldn't know if you did. If I don't hear from you, that assumes no. All right. Okay. Thank you, Alan.
No.
Oh, was that a yes?
No.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Good evening.
And just there's a lot of people here tonight. All of these documents are online in our website, or if they're not already, well, actually, they're in tonight's agenda online. It's very good information about our financial state as of now, and there's a lot of good information to learn there. So don't be afraid to look it up. That concludes certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have no carryover items this evening, but we do have one public hearing. E1 is a public hearing to reprogram Community Development Block Grant CDBG program year 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 funds. I see Cindy Stewart coming forward.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As the Mayor said, we have funds from 2018 through 2023. We were going to use these funds for an all-inclusive park, but after numerous environmental studies, the county and HUD has told us due to the noise and contamination, we cannot do that. So we would like to reprogram all these funds so that we can retrofit the council chambers and make it ADA compliant and a more usable space. And the total would be that we have is $685,605.20.
Any questions? Councilmember Hamilton.
Just to clarify, this is all federal dollars that we have to limit what we expended on, correct?
Yes,
Yep.
we have to get approval, and we tried, and they are very sorry, but it just won't work. And hopefully there's another place in the city that we can do our park.
Sure, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. I don't see that anybody has signed up to speak specifically on this item, but it doesn't.
Mayor, sorry, there's someone, Ramesh Rao, signed up.
I apologize. The list is long. Ramesh Rao, are you here to speak on the public hearing?
They also signed up in the next.
They signed up
maybe it
later,
was,
so perhaps it's
Yeah.
was meant to sign up under normal public comment. So, but my initial point was you're not required to sign up for a public hearing. So if anyone would like to speak on this item, you may do so now by coming forward. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask if someone would like to bring the resolution to the table for discussion. Councilmember Hamilton.
I'll move E1, public hearing to reprogram Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program year 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2020-23 funds as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve E1, public hearing to reprogram Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program year 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 funds as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. That concludes public comment, public hearings this evening. We move on to public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. We do have several of you signed up this evening. As a reminder, our rules regarding public comment are printed in our agenda packet. Online, they are from our council rules of procedure as well. And they give you 3 minutes. When the clock turns yellow and the light turns yellow, you have 1 minute left. When it turns red, your time is up, and we ask that you do stop at that 3 minutes. Again, this is not a back and forth discussion. It's a one-way communication from you to all of us. We will have an opportunity to reply and respond after everyone is done speaking. Also, as a reminder, our rules prohibit applause and audience participation in other ways, so please be respectful of those so I don't have to use the gavel. That said, we'll get started. First up is Tyler Fox.
Hi, how y'all doing tonight? My name's Tyler. I live at 1623 Milverton Drive in South Troy. I just wanted to start comment tonight by speaking on an item you guys have. I believe it's I-4, potential appointment of a new city council member. I wanted to take the chance to speak on behalf of a personal friend of mine, Harak Chanda, who is someone that I'm aware you guys are considering appointing to the position. I've known Harak for a number of years. He cares deeply about the city of Troy, so much so that he actually ran for council position this last election. 43 votes were all that separated him from just winning outright and ascending to be at the dais with all of you all. Not only do I think Harak is a fantastic person to ascend to city council based on how I know he cares about this city, I also think it would be wonderful to see this council make history by appointing the first South Asian council member to the City of Troy City Council. The South Asian community here in Troy provides such a vibrant addition to our community, and it would be amazing to see them represented by the council themselves. So really, that's all I had to say. Hope you guys have a lovely night.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Please, wait, guys. Hey, hold on, please. We can't. We'll be here all night if we have to applaud every time. So I get it. We'll applaud when we make some decisions. I don't mean to be a stickler about this, but let's not do this. Our rules prohibit them. I'll bang the gavel every time if I have to, but please, we get it. Many of you here to support Harak tonight. Some of you might be here to support someone else. We'll applaud at the end if someone gets appointed. How about that? It's fair? All right, thank you. Richard Young.
My comment is also in support of Harak Chanda. Good evening, council members and neighbors. My name is Richard Young. I have lived in Troy for 40 years. I was a scientist at GM and a professor at the Wayne State University School of Medicine. I am now a small business owner who serves as an expert witness in legal cases involving driver distraction. I appreciate Troy for its outstanding city council and city services. My children attended K through 12 in the excellent Troy school system. Troy Fire Department volunteers helped my daughter stay safe after her car caught fire. I support the council's majority intention at its November 20th meeting to appoint Harak Chanda to fill the vacancy left by Ann Galt's recent resignation to represent Troy in the Oakland County Board. Background. As the city attorney will confirm, the Troy City Charter says the council can appoint someone to fill a vacancy by a majority vote. The city clerk recently published the final official results from the city council election on November 7th. The potential council appointees and the election results are well known to be council members are well known to the council members and the Troy voting public. Hence, at their November 20th meeting, most council members agreed that an interview process would be a necessary delay in the vital work of the council. Chanda or Ross. On November 20th, most council members supported Chanda, but left the formal vote until tonight's meeting. What did the voters say in November 7th council election? The final official results showed 36,804 votes cast. The top 3 vote getters were Brooks, Galt, and Gunn. The 4th and 5th were Chanda and Ross. Method. I used a 2-sample proportion test to compare the difference in the percentage points between the 3rd and 4th candidates, Gunn versus Chanda, and the 4th and 5th candidates, Chanda versus Ross. The results. Gunn had only 43 more votes than Chanda. This slight difference is only 0.1% of the total vote and was not statistically significant. This result indicates that Gunn and Chanda were statistically tied. If the election were repeated, the voters would be equally likely to pick Chanda or Gunn for the 3rd seat on the council. Chanda versus Ross. Chanda had 611 more votes than Ross, or 1.7 of the total vote. Chanda's increment over Ross was highly statistically significant, probably less than 1 in 10 million. This result indicates that if the November 7th vote were repeated, Chanda would almost certainly again have had more votes than Ross. Conclusion. A statistical analysis of the November 7th election indicates that Chanda was statistically tied with Gunn, the current board member. Chanda also had a significant higher proportion of the vote than Ross. These results support the council's decision to appoint Chanda rather than Ross to replace Galt. Thank you for your attention. If anyone wants a copy,
thank you, Mr. Young.
Sure, my associate here will hand out a copy. Just raise your hand.
Next up is Stephen Sadler.
Good evening, Mayor Baker, City Council members. Thank you for your dedication and service to our city. Please also thank your families. My name is Steve Sadler. I live at 300 Scone Drive. I am a longtime resident of a total of 57 years. I grew up in Troy between 1955 and 1974. Then with my wife, built a home here where we have lived since 1986. I encourage you to appoint Harak Chanda to fill the City Council vacancy. I feel this appointment is an easy decision, as I mentioned to you in my email. Harak Chanda was an excellent candidate who narrowly lost the election 4 weeks ago by only 43 votes. We have 37 precincts in Troy, so he lost by only 1.22 votes per precinct. The next closest candidate was 611 votes behind Harak. The residents have spoken. I watched the City Council meeting, previous one, and there was comments by a resident who seemed to insinuate one of the candidates, Harak, quote, would be weaponizing the police. They were, quote, worried about a council member being an extremist. They used the word Antifa. And this was all because this candidate was at a rally where a sign was being held that the resident didn't like. Just because a person is in attendance doesn't mean they agree with the sign. I'm a supporter of our wonderful Troy police, including one of my ex-students from Bowling Park Middle School. As the uncle of an ex-Texas U.S. Border Patrol agent and now detective in Macomb County, I know about supporting police. And I know my friend Harak Chanda is also a huge supporter of our police and all first responders. I know Harak Chanda will be an excellent addition to our council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. Next up is Vinod Mudaliar.
Thank you, Mayor Baker, City Council members, and Troy administration. So I'm here to support Harak Chanda's appointment. So I came to know about Harak Chanda in replacement or in lieu of our former City Council member Ann Erickson. Even though we miss her, good luck for her as well. So having said that, I'm here to support him. I know Chanda through Facebook. That's how I came to know about him, through the social media. And he's been a supporter of our needs. I know you all know me that actually I here come for cricket and supporting these individuals. And he's been, before even contesting, he was a supporter of that. And I wanted to say that he's a genuine person. And I'm here to extend and express and register my support for Hirak Chanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. Good to see you. Next up is Kathleen Gooden.
Hi, my name is Kate Gooden, really, and thank you for allowing me a chance to speak. My husband and I have been a resident of Troy for over 20 years, and I came to know Hirak about 3 years ago when I was corresponding secretary and he was the chairperson for the Troy Democratic Committee. I'm here tonight for Hirak because Hirak was always here for me. Any project he was involved in, he conducted all the meetings that we had. He was always there. He was engaged. He was inclusive. He was informed. And I know he'll be a great addition to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Kelly Jones.
My name is Kelly Jones, and I'm a 24-year resident of Troy. I'm speaking on behalf of many in our community when I say this is the representation that the people mandate. If I could just ask those who are here to witness the swearing in of Hirak Chanda tonight, hopefully to raise your hands. I also want to address a matter that transpired during our recent City Council meeting on November 20th. During public comment, multiple individuals accused Hirak Chanda of being anti-cop and portraying our city as crime-ridden. Several folks referenced photographs taken during the Black Lives Matter rally in 2020, the largest rally in the history of Troy. In this image, Mr. Chanda was captured alongside a friend, and in the background, about 20 feet behind Mr. Chanda, an individual held up a reprehensible anti-cop sign. It is shameful that some choose to misconstrue this moment to conclude Mr. Chanda's stance on law enforcement. Let me clarify the importance of this historic march. In 2020, about 1,500 people peacefully marched in Troy. This march was organized by students and attended by clergy, teachers, parents, and grandparents. Troy police officers took a knee in solidarity with the student organizers. I would also like to recognize the intellectual ability of our Troy police officers who understand that sentiments expressed by a handful of individuals do not represent the views of our community. Many of you were also in attendance. Our law enforcement engages in public outreach efforts to foster a sense of safety and inclusion within our community. As leaders of this city, I am confident that you are not naive enough to lend credence to baseless accusations. But I am speaking about this not only due to the insulting nature, but also because of the disturbingly racist and intensely personal tone that we heard 2 weeks ago. Look around this room. This is the community you represent. The individuals here and the individuals who marked for a more peaceful community are Troy. This is an opportunity for us to rise above the vitriol, quiet the anger, rage, and fear, and work together. Troy is ever-changing, becoming more diverse, boasting 83 different languages spoken within our city per our official website. As you work to serve our city, please consider the mosaic of our community. We cannot merely extol our diversity. We must respect the people who contribute to our community. So let's remain cognizant of our collective responsibility to foster unity and understanding within Troy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Next up is Vital Ani.
Good evening, Mayor Baker, council members. First of all, I want to thank you all for your time and dedication to the city. Much appreciated. I know what it takes to be a council member and how much time you put in it. I've lived in Troy for over 20 years, and I've worked in Troy for almost 30 years now. I'm an active community member of Asian descent and Indian heritage. And I'm here to express my very strong support for the appointment of my friend, Mr. Hirak Chanda, to the open position of the Troy City Council. As you're aware, Mr. Chanda is a highly skilled engineer, known for his problem-solving abilities with a lot of patents in his name. He's also the highest vote getter in the last election, demonstrating the overwhelming support he has in this community. He received just 43 votes, less than our council member, Mr. Markan. And I believe that his commitment to public service, coupled with his passion for addressing the needs of our diverse community, makes him an excellent candidate for this vacant position. Troy is a city that thrives in diversity. It is critical that our city council represents this diversity. U.S. Census report shows 26% of Troy population is Asian American, 29% of Troy is foreign-born, and over 33% of us speak another language, over 80 different languages at our homes. And our city council should represent that, because that is how we understand the various issues facing our community and help solve them together. His background and experience uniquely position him to represent the interest of the wide range of our constituents. Furthermore, Mr. Chanda has dedicated to fostering unity and understanding among different communities in our Troy. His leadership has the potential to strengthen the bond among our community members and residents and promote a collaborative approach to addressing any challenges we get. So I do want to thank you for considering the wishes of the electorate. I wasn't there at the last council meeting, but I did hear every one of you, and I really appreciate the fact that you are indeed honoring the democratic process and ensuring that our city continues to be led by individuals who genuinely understand and champion our diverse perspectives of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ani. Next up is Jay Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor Baker and Councilman. I have been the resident of Troy for the last 44 years, and I have seen how much progress we have made in city of Troy. I only would like to say that Mr. Chanda would be a positive influence for the city of Troy and the council, and I think council would definitely benefit from his experience and ethical standard. So I would appreciate if the council can accept him as a vacant position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Next up is Joey Colby.
Mayor, council, staff, clerk. The advanced hearing, you told me last time I came up that you wanted to show me who you really were. It was a big thing to you, and you did by supporting Harak in the advanced hearing. Harak is a dear friend of mine. I work 2 jobs, and I'm in 2 master's programs. I don't have a lot of time to come to city council meetings or to do this type of thing, but to support Harak, I would. My family owned Kim's, and we opened that restaurant in 1974. My family has had 7 kids go through the school district. I lived in the city up until I was 2, and then I moved back in 2018. I live at 5125 Shady Creek. Most of my family, in terms of my in-laws, live in the city. We all supported and voted for Harak, and Harak is a brilliant engineer. He's a good friend of mine. I think that it would be really great for the city in terms of representation to have a number, to have Harak up here. We don't have any Asian representation on the city. And to me, that's not right. And to me, it would mean a lot to my family. It would mean a lot to the community. It would mean a lot to my deceased family, to see somebody of Southeast Asian descent on this committee, on this council. And if you're angling for higher office, I'd vote for you. if you're going for something higher, if you support this. I would. I'm a hard Democrat, but I'm telling you, Mayor Baker, if you support this, you know, I would, if you run for county executive, you know, I'd put a lawn sign of yours on my lawn, so I just want you to know that, like, you could definitely win my vote here, and you could win my support, but more importantly, I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak. I'm grateful that you were able to really show me who you are by supporting Hirak in the advanced hearing, and I'm really looking forward, hopefully, fingers are crossed, to seeing our next city council member up here next to David. Thank you so much.
Oh, I want to joke, but I'll save it for later. Aaron Green.
Aaron Green, Troy resident. I'll keep it short. I know Hirak, and that's not even relevant. You are supporting the will of the people. He was next up in the running as far as votes received in this city, and the person, one of the people who was reelected, has moved on to another position. The only right thing is to appoint Hirak to that position to fulfill the will of the people, and that's what you're doing, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Next up is Under Saini.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and the council members. It's my privilege. I live in a city of Troy from last 35 years. I'm a retired pediatrician. I've seen the growth of the Troy from last 50 years and come to this stage of diversity and inclusiveness in the city council. And the diversity is always changing. It's not a one-time deal, it's always changing. And as Hirak is concerned, he's an excellent person. And I think it'll be in short, everybody had told his good manners, his good education and everything. But it'll be good to have a Southeast Indian Asian on this council. It'll be great for the council and the city. And as I know, there's in Michigan cities, Troy has the largest number of Asian Indian living at this time. So it's a high time to recognize that and also honor a very hardworking person to really a city council. So I'm in whole support, and not only me, all the people around who's standing behind me, we came here to support him, and we hope that you will consider him for this position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Next up is Kelly Walters. All right. Kelly said, never mind. Janice Gerling.
Good evening, Mayor Baker, City Council members. I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight as a concerned resident and registered voter in the City of Troy. Listening to the concerns of constituents is vital in maintaining the integrity of our democratic process, and I stand before you today to express my dissatisfaction regarding recent actions taken by this council. On November 20th, I attended the City Council meeting to celebrate the swearing in of our newly elected officials and also to gain insight into how the newly vacated council seat would be filled. During that meeting, I also voiced my support for the consideration of Ed Ross for the vacant council seat. However, as each council member articulated their thoughts on filling the vacancy, it became increasingly evident that a decision had already been made to vote in favor of appointing Hirak Chanda. This departure from established precedent, specifically the application and interview process utilized at least twice in the recent past, left me very disheartened. Council members provided justification for their choice of Hirak, including the volume of emails received in his support, none of which were shared during public comment, although I see many people here tonight after the fact. His standing as the fourth highest vote getter, although I must point out that he ran as a slate with two other candidates who both obtained a much higher vote count. and concerns that the interview process would be too time-consuming and divert attention from other council business. Absent from the discussion was the fact that 3 council members who declared their support for Harak had also contributed to his campaign. This information to me raises questions about the impartiality of the decision-making process and highlights a significant lack of transparency. Frankly, I find this concerning. It demonstrates bias and a complete disregard for the principles of transparency and fairness. I had anticipated that this council would either adhere to established precedent or, if necessary, take the initiative to make a motion to define a clear and transparent process for filling vacancies and amending the charter to support. In conclusion, I urge you to, moving forward, either follow established precedent consistently or take decisive action to establish a fair and transparent process for filling vacancies. Our community deserves a council that upholds the principles of democracy and operates with the highest standards of integrity. You can all do better.
Thank you, Ms. Gerling. Next up is Ken Scheck.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Janice. Janice just said most of what I was going to say, so I'll pivot. Okay, first of all, I identify myself as a resident of Troy, 70-plus years, voting for more than 56 years. My family was here before there was a city of Troy. And
Mr. Scheck, can you speak
rest here. I'm sorry, I'm rest.
Into the microphone.
Yeah, they internally rest here, as I probably will as well. But what I have to say is, yes, I too am troubled by the events of last week, and to bring people come up here in public comment supporting another candidate, Ed Ross, and another process just to learn that somehow there's non-transparent emails, and then coming in, guiding the council in a different direction, and that is really, really concerning. Over the years, I've brought in a number of Boy Scout troops who are earning badges and winning their way. This is their first exposure to a democratic process, but how do I explain this? How do I explain donations coming from the same body that may be voting for him that day? People can vote any way they want, but then turn around and have a special election. There's just something that just doesn't sit well with me with that. And I hope that those people reconsider their conflict of interest on that matter. And I also want to hand it to Mr. Chandra. Outstanding campaign he ran. And it appears to me he also had often elections are won based on finance. And he raised a considerable amount of money for a city council race. A considerable amount of money. Some from Troy, some from outside of Troy, spread throughout Oakland County, Michigan, and even out of the state. But he did very well, bringing in more money than the other 4 non-slate candidates themselves. So very well done, but not necessarily meaning you're the best person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scheck. Next up is Kathleen O'Loughlin.
Good evening, Mayor Baker and City Council members. My name is Kathleen O'Loughlin. I have been in Troy since 1986, and I moved into my house that I own in 1993. So I've been around for a long time. And I wrote this down because I have stage fright. Anyway, I wanted to say that I attended the meeting last week, the last regular Troy City Council meeting of November 20th. And then I had also written a letter to express my displeasure at how the City Council board meeting had run, particularly with respects to the filling of the vacancy. There was a bunch of us that showed up and spoke in favor primarily for Ed Ross. And after the city council members had already spoken, it was clear to me that they had already made a decision that HIREC was going to be appointed the vacancy. I think that the city charter should reflect a specific way or process to fill a vacancy on the city council, as opposed to just willy-nilly, like we're going to pick this. And it has nothing to do with the election at all. It shouldn't have anything to do with the election. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I do have a copy of the candidate committee, and I noticed that 3 members of the Troy City Council had contributed to the candidate HIREC, made contributions, and I think that they should have recused themselves on an ethical basis, just because anybody that contributes to a campaign indicates that they are in favor of that particular candidate. And lastly, I want to talk about the emails that were discussed at the meeting. Nobody ever mentioned, nobody divulged anything to anybody about where the emails came from. I mean, were they validated by anybody? Were they registered voters of Troy? I don't know, because that was not very transparent. So anyway, all in all, I thought the last meeting, with respects, the vacancy was handled very shabbily, unethically, and lack of transparency. Anyway, I appreciate being able to talk before you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. Next up is Edward Ross. He was here a minute ago. No? Okay. Dinesh Shah.
Thank you, council members, and thank you all, everybody. I know Hirak. I've talked to him a few times. I've been a resident of Troy from 1996. I strongly recommend, as the echo of the other people, besides all the conversation that I heard in the last few of them, but South Asian community over here is growing. I would love to have one of the voice representing. At the same time, Hirak's credentials, his ability to problem solving, and ability to bring the community agenda together, I'll appreciate if you kindly consider it as a council member. And one more time, who are in favor of Hirak, would you please raise your hand one more time here, who are present today? And lastly, one gentleman mentioned very interestingly here that if he is the next one in line as a due elected process, that becomes very easy for everyone to accept that he was the next in line to be elected if the election was to be done today. So please, having a scientist from Wayne State University giving you statistical data, having a gentleman giving you the abilities to make the due process for all the campaign money and finance money and whoever gave where becomes absolute or irrelevant in my opinion. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. Next up is Ashok Badi.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. First of all, I think democracy is a game of numbers. And as you can tell, there is overwhelming support for Hirak. So transparency and other issues are always going to be there. But democracy is primarily about bringing together a group of people who are going to vote in large numbers. And I think Hirak Chand has done that for the Indian community here in Troy, and I think he deserves this position the most. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Herr Devabathini.
Good evening, Mayor Baker. Good evening, council members. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. I'm here to support Hirak. Last 2 weeks back, I was here. I know this whole process seems to be such a waste of time for the council members. I'm sure you have a lot better stuff to do. But last 2 weeks back when I came, I saw a house full of members supporting Ross, and there was no one. So we thought sending out an email would be a better use of time of the council. So that's the only reason we sent out emails. But we felt that this council, this hall was representing incorrectly. So that's the only reason we showed up in numbers, not to waste the time of the council. So do forgive us for taking your valuable time. I'm sure you have a lot more agenda items. I'll just quickly add a couple of things. People talking about transparency and other stuff. People who come here also, there's nothing that we know anything about, kind of giving a false impression about Hark here and trying to say bad stuff. Especially, I don't want to repeat what was told at the last meeting, but we do know him personally. We've been working. He did participate in a lot of our other stuff for better gun control and other things. There's more than a quarter of the population represents, a lot of people said Asian Americans, but in fact, mostly Indian Americans, and trying to have the first Indian American on the council and having a diversified bench would definitely help make, at least hear the voice from the Indian community. Teresa, and we are happy that she's going to the Oakland County, at least having a representation for the Troy. And again, I'm here to congratulate Harik if he wins and ask the council to please consider and appoint him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, come on. Next up is Ramesh Rao. You were doing so well. Ramesh, are you here? Second time I've called you, so all right, okay. Barb Yeagley, are you here to speak on an agenda item? You're signed up for not an agenda. If it's not, we'll do it in, okay.
My name is Barb Yeagley, and I'm the source of the comment about it was the ACAB sign that even the people, they found it so offensive they wouldn't even repeat it. And I want to stand here and publicly apologize to Mr. Chanda for disparaging his character. But I also want to point out, and I do apologize with all my heart, but I think now we all know how it feels to be falsely accused of something. In 2011, we were all here and listening to people smear Janice Daniel. There was an organized campaign by activists. They started with her, and they were very successful. And the council remained silent in the face of all that. They did not defend Janice, and they did not condemn the smear campaigns. So the groups have continued to do this. So I think, and I wanted to talk about the event where the sign was at. It was a Black Lives Matter protest that, actually I found it was kind of sad because prior to, in 2017, I was a part of an anti-hate initiative that was led by Jen Hinsinger. And I remember that at these meetings that we had to diffuse, the hate and the deal with the election of Donald Trump, they had a police representative there. He was a community affairs representative to stay engaged with the community to get, what their needs were and to make sure that they understood where the community was coming from. So I found the police department, even though my personal dealings with them are not always very good, usually involving traffic stops. In this case, I admired them for their outreach to the community. And yet, 3 years later, here there's a massive protest in which the city council supported the protest and really didn't defend the police department. They basically agreed with the protesters. And it wasn't bad that there was, I'm involved in the pro-life movement, so I do protests too. But this group, they blocked the intersection at Big Beaver and Coolidge, and there was no condemnation of them blocking. And there was no police enforcement because, I don't know, I think they were either told to stand down or they were inclined to believe that they should stand down. But at any rate, so when you're going to cultivate that kind of lack of respect for laws, this is ongoing. So I'm glad that Mr. Shanda is not one of those people, and I'm glad that all the people in here would never support a smear campaign against any other individual and group. And again, I do apologize for my words.
Thank you, Ms. Yegley. That concludes those that have signed up for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. We do have an opportunity to respond or reply now. I'm questioning whether we should do it now or speak during discussion on the appointment. Council, of course, is free to, if they'd like, if anyone would like to speak now, or we can do it a little later. Maybe we'll do it during I-4. Okay, there are no postponed items this evening, so we'll move on to regular business. I-1 is board and committee appointments. There are no mayoral appointments this evening, no city council appointments. I-2 is board and committee nominations. First up are mayoral nominations. I have just a few. I'd like to move to the Global Troy Advisory Committee the renomination of Lisa Bika-Grodsky, Sadia Cheringe, and Philippe Cicchini for the terms expiring October 30th, 2026.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve the renomination of Lisa Bika-Grodsky, Sadia Cheringe, and Philippe Cicchini to the Global Troy Advisory Committee for the term expiring October 30th, 2026. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up, to the Planning Commission, I'd like to renominate Toby Beekner, Carlton Faison, and Jaya Lakshmi Malalahali for the terms expiring December 31st, 2026.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, that we approve the renomination of Toby Beekner, Carlton Faison, and I know it's Lakshmi, but it's Jaya Lakshmi Malalahali to the Planning Commission for the term expiring December 31st, 2026. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes mayoral nominations this evening. I do not believe there are any city council nominations this evening. So that concludes board and committee nominations. Next up is I-3. We do not have a request for closed session this evening, so we'll move on to I-4, city council appointment, and that'll be introduced by our city attorney, Lori Grigblum.
Thank you, Mayor. And as has been alluded to tonight in the meeting, the council does have the responsibility to nominate a council member to fill the vacant position. And that nomination has to be done within 30 days under the charter, section 6.7. There's only 16 days left for council to fulfill their responsibility. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, City Attorney Bloom. Any questions for city management or city attorney? All right, I'm going to move the resolution resolve that Troy City Council hereby appoints Harak Chanda to the vacant city council member office with the partial term expiring at 7:30 p.m. at the first regular city council meeting following the Oakland County Board of Canvassers certification of the August 6, 2024 primary election results.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve the resolution to appoint Harak Chanda to the vacant seat as read into the record. Now's an opportunity for discussion. Councilmember Hamilton.
I'll stand by my comments that I made 2 weeks ago. Harak was 43 votes short of Councilmember Gunn. I view that supporting the will of the people is the way to go, and I will support Harak to be appointed. And he will be up for a special election in August, and the people will be able to weigh in on that decision then.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Councilmember Gunn.
First, I want to applaud all the passion that this community has come out. I hope we see that kind of passion for any issues that we are faced within the community. In my short time here on City Council, I have seen our City Councilman's challenge with many decisions that I didn't know that we were being facing. To me, this one is a little unfair because we have a process in place and a procedure. I come from a level of a private enterprise where we follow bylaws and we follow them. I also come from a military background where we are given orders and we're to follow them. And this is a really special, unique situation in that we had somebody pass away that allowed Ann Gall to go and represent us in Oakland County. And the question is, and I've heard from people on city council and past mayors that ask me, what is the cutoff? Is it 5 days before an election? Is it 20 days? Is it 30 days, 16? What is it? My opinion is that the procedures in place put together by previous leaders in our city, and I would suggest that we explore a rules of procedure for this issue, because it's really hard, because another city council could be sitting here and maybe somebody passed away 3 weeks before the election. So what do we do in that case then? Do we promote the next person again? I just think that we need to have a better process in place, because it's a little bit unfair, and especially being new, I've been given this is how we do things, and then we're just going to change them. So that's my opinion. It's not to say that Hirak is not the most qualified. I just think that in fairness to past and existing procedures, it should have been opened up. It's not. I understand that. But that would be my take on it.
Thank you, Councilmember Gunn.
Well, okay, thank
Go
you.
ahead, sorry.
That's
Calling
okay.
on you.
I'll just repeat kind of my sentiment that I expressed at the last meeting. I understand what Councilmember Gunn is coming from. I think that it just, given the fact that this happened very, very, very close to the election, literally 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks possibly, the community has spoken. And so, people did put in their votes, people did express their sentiments, and we do represent the will of the people. That is what we are pressed to do. That's what we are here to do, to our best of our ability. And so I do feel that given kind of the nature of the circumstances and the situation, I think that this is the process that we are following is best representing the will of the people. And so that's why I believe that we are following this process at this time. Circumstances can change, and we may follow the processes that make sense at that point. But either way, I believe that we're doing the will of the people. And there will be a special election in August, and, residents have their ability to say their piece at that point as well. So that's where I stand.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks. Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
I appreciate everyone showing up tonight. I know you have better things to do on a Monday night in December, although this is a very important topic. And I also appreciate the nervousness when people speak. It's not easy to come to that microphone and share your sincere thoughts. I think it's really important that we clarify something, and that is, I really appreciate Councilman Gunn talking about process. I'm a process person too. Come out of strategic planning in the corporate world, did some stints in that. Processes are important. The governing processes that we follow are important. Just to clarify, if I can ask a question of City Attorney Bloom, our charter allows for the city councils at the time, given the circumstances that they're in, to determine the process they follow in that moment in time. That is the latitude that our charter gives us. The specificity is that it has to be done within so many days, correct? But we do have the latitude as a city council to determine the process.
The charter does not provide any specific process. So the only thing that is provided for in the charter is that it must be done by the city council within 30 days of the vacancy.
Okay. I just want to make sure we do have that understanding that we're not doing something capricious. I've also been a part of a number of appointment processes. And the first step the city council takes is the one we took at our last meeting, to determine in that point in time, under those circumstances of filling the vacancy, what is the best process for us to take. And Councilman Gunn is rightfully referencing, there has been a process that worked, and then it seemed to make sense the next time we were in this circumstance. It makes sense the next time. In this circumstance, and you can disagree with us, reasonable people could maybe disagree, but what we did is we said, okay, that process made sense at that time. In this particular instance, literally, the voters had just determined the numbers, those votes had just been finalized days before. We were meeting on Monday night. The county clerk's office had just finalized the numbers and made them final. So where I'm coming from, fully transparent, is it's data-driven. And that data was within days. I can't imagine the reaction we would have from the bulk of our fellow residents if we were to have determined it was within our purview to overturn a vote they had just brought to us. And to suggest that we take any candidate that wasn't even close in those votes, furthermore, just defies, for me, personally, logic. Respectfully, that's where I'm coming from. One thing you learn very quickly in this job is you can't make everybody happy. And when you're a people pleaser, I gotta tell you, that's a tough place to be. And so you try to determine the best, most logical approach that represents, as Councilwoman Brooks said, to the best of our capability, the will of the voters and our fellow residents. I know there are going to be some who take issue still, but if the next person in line hadn't been a Harak, I would be advocating for that person, because that just makes sense to me. We did have from Mr. Young a very data-driven statistical analysis. And the engineer by marriage association and me really appreciated this. I also wanted to take a second and comment, since we didn't respond to comment previously. I appreciate your work on distracted driving, and would just like to point out to everyone, Troy was a lead city on facing that challenge years ago, and you probably know that. There were lots of passions on that topic as well at the time. And so as we take this vote, that's my rationale. The bottom line of it is that the voters have spoken. It's clear to me the voters made the decision. I don't feel like I'm making this decision. In fact, this was far more clear-cut than any other appointment process I've sat in. And to suggest that those were better, that's a whole nother conversation we could have. I don't know, and I appreciate what Councilman Gunn is saying, that there is a process that we could try to, wedge into the charter that makes it that we follow the absolute process each time, because I do think the circumstances of the appointment and time make a difference. And the latitude that the council has to determine that process, based on my experience doing it over the years, seems to make sense. But I'm willing to talk about that further, Councilman Gunn, as we go forward and entertain that idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick. Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga, I know you can't vote this evening, but did you want to add anything to the discussion?
Yes, I did, Mayor. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Harak, it pains me that I cannot be in person to see you, but to see so many people turn up, that heartens me, and heartens me all the more, as I said in our previous meeting, that this is the will of the people. and the numbers don't lie. But I do want to add to that, along with the numbers, to me, it's also important as I think about the issues the city faces. We'll be hiring a new city manager, diving into a new budget. We have a lot in front of us. And I think about having a colleague who many of you think about the colleagues you work with. And the folks you enjoy working with are those folks who ask questions, who want to come alongside and learn, and not necessarily folks who have a presupposed agenda or come in thinking they know it all. And so something I appreciate about Hirak is he's a great person to work with. And I have worked with Hirak in the past. And I imagine him, as he always has been, that person who is so ready to learn, so ready to dive in, ask questions, and do all that he can to make a difference. And so it's also, in my mind, it is the numbers, and it's the person who Hirak is and who I know he will be on council. So if I wasn't sick, my vote, it will always be a yes vote for Hirak.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain-Kranga. I have a couple of things I want to say. I think if you're here, you can see where the votes are going to be to start right off. I think you could see them 2 weeks ago also. Maybe 3 weeks. Has it been 3 weeks? Maybe it's 2 weeks. I thought it was the 11th already. I want to talk first about what Councilmember Gunn just brought up. I've been part of an appointment process twice for council members. This is my third time. And I think it's a terrible process. I told the city manager and the city attorney today, I think council shouldn't appoint a vacant council seat. I think it should just be vacant until the next election, because I think it's not clear. I'm really honest. I don't think it's a good system that we have in place by the terms of our charter. And I say that as not somebody who often says anything negative about our city or our charter, to be honest. But it bothers me. It is difficult because they're without any specific rules on what to do other than you must appoint somebody within 30 days. It opens up the business of our meeting to these conversations. And absent something in the charter that says specifically what council has to do, even if we had council rules that stated what we could do, we could waive those rules as a member of this body. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that way. I also know that the next election here will be in August of 2024, which is quite a ways away. But if there was language that said we have to have a special election like other seats do for other jurisdictions, that's $150,000 roughly expense. That doesn't seem worth it to me either. So I do think the system is strange. We've had precedent on what we've done different times, but the precedent doesn't specifically apply to this situation because it came from just so recent to an election. I think that does separate it a little bit. It's interesting to be here. I want to say a couple other things about some specific things that were said, because I think it's really important. Like I said, I think we know where the votes are going to go, and I don't want to take anything away from Hirak this evening. But I do want to say, the emails that we spoke about at the last meeting, those were all publicly sent to our public email accounts. I don't like to encourage freedom of information requests, but they're subject to FOIA. They're not being hidden by anybody. If someone requested them, we'd be required by law to turn them over. So there's nothing missing or nothing being hidden in those emails. They're all there, subject to FOIA. I don't want anyone to think it's about any other thing, anything not transparent. That's very important to me. And I also, again, want to thank everybody who came forward this evening and came forward at the last meeting. Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick talked a little bit about it. It can be nerve-wracking. You see people talk about their nerves when they come up here. We seemingly speak probably too much for most of you without any concern for our nerves or anything. But it is a different position to come forward and speak. And some of you do it very comfortably and fluidly, and some of you do a great job, but even though we can tell that you're nervous. So I appreciate everybody coming forward and speaking, whether it was 2 weeks ago or whether it was tonight. I think you all bring good points at different points of the conversation. I also do want to remind everybody that our decision, or my decision tonight, isn't based on who was here tonight, who was here 2 weeks ago, who emailed or who didn't. I mean, it's important, but if we had to essentially check in with all the registered voters of Troy to make this decision, that wouldn't make sense either. We couldn't possibly do that, right? So I think if we had another meeting next week and said, you know what, come speak on who you think we should appoint to council, we could wrestle up another 100 people to come and they would speak, and maybe someone would speak about somebody else. So not to take anything away from any of you and your support for Harak or your support for Ed or your support for a different process, I understand all of that, but it is not just a snapshot of who's here in the room tonight. That would be irresponsible of me and all of us to look at it like that. And yet I understand exactly why everyone was here 2 weeks ago and certainly why people felt it was necessary to come tonight. Mr. Colby, please don't trade votes for my vote. That sounds ridiculous. Your credibility went way down when that happened, so I appreciate the humor, and man, if it's that important to you, I don't know. But we do miss Kim's, I will say that, and I miss Margaret especially. I spent a lot of time talking to Margaret, so please let everybody know that. But here's the situation. I believe Harak has the votes tonight, and in my 8 years on council, on decisions like this, I believe in supporting what the majority is because I think it's important for a new member of council to come in or a new city manager, whoever that type of appointment vote is, to have the full support of council. And so I will be voting for Harak this evening, and I want that to be nothing more than what's happening tonight with this vote. And I wish, whether it's Mr. Ross or anybody else who wishes to challenge Harak in August, the best of luck. You know, there's a lot of opportunities for people to continue. Things are going to look very different in August, so who knows? And I don't say that to scare Harak or anybody else, but it's, you know, that's part of our process. It's not that difficult to get on the ballot for a city council seat. And if you feel passionate about it, in fact, some of you who spoke tonight, I think, should consider running at times. Yeah, honestly, not against Harak specifically, but I mean, some of you come up repeatedly and are very passionate about our city, and those are the type of people that often perhaps should be on council. So with that said, I thank everybody for coming. I also thank you all for, when I asked you not to clap and applaud, I was shocked that you pretty much did it. So thank you for that. Well, no, thank you. There we go. I did tell you can applaud later, but that's it. I'm going to ask for the vote for Ms. Dixon, and we'll move forward.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn.
No.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Oh, motion carries. So at this time, we will have the oath of office. Hold on. Hear me out for a sec. We will have the the oath of office. So the City Clerk Dixon, please come forward. Mr. Chanda, please come forward. And then we'll take a quick recess after the oath is administered, because I imagine most of you will leave.
Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the Charter of the City of Troy, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of City Council Member in and for the City of Troy, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
You may applaud. So, all right, we're going to take a 10-minute recess, and we'll be back at 9:15. Well, I just recessed. Yeah, sorry. Back on the record, got to keep the door open though, or no, Lori?
Yeah.
We got to keep at least
I don't
one open?
know. Yeah, at least one should be open. At least one of the doors should be open, please.
Oh, we have to open.
Open one of the doors.
Sergeant
sir.
Galich, could you please, thank you.
They don't get quiet when they see you. There's something wrong with them. All right, next up is I-5 bid waiver, outdoor gun range rental, police department. That'll be introduced by Sergeant Galich. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Could you pull your microphone back? Thank you.
There you go, better?
Yes.
All right, good evening. For the last 15 years, the police department's used the Detroit Sportsman Congress for our outdoor range. We qualify every police officer in the city at that range with rifles. And in addition to that, our tactical support team and our pistol team practices there. We'd like to add a couple of practices for each team. We also would like to add remedial training for officers that need more time with the weapon system to be more familiar, gain confidence with that weapon, and improve proficiency with it also. And lastly, we're going to be hiring multiple new officers in 2024, and we want to have range days for those officers as they come into the department to get them training. So we're requesting a total of $14,850 for the fiscal year.
Thank you, Sergeant. Any questions? I have to get my bearings straight. You caught me off guard. All right, anyone like to move the resolution? Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move I-5 bid waiver, outdoor gun range rental, police department as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve I-5 bid waiver, outdoor gun range rental, police department as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Happy to support this initiative, anything for our police department. And I also loved hearing that you've got plans to hire a bunch of new officers in 2024. So that sounds very good. All right. That said, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. The irony that your first vote is on police support. That's funny. Yeah. All right, that concludes regular business this evening. Next up is the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Councilmember Brooks. I've said that a few times. It's not Brooks, it's Brooks. That we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. If you're here for an item on the consent agenda, all have been approved this evening. We have no memorandums and future council agenda items this evening. I don't believe there's anybody here for public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses, so no need for reply. We have no council referrals, so we move on to reports. Did anyone have any comment on any of the reports this evening? Councilmember Brooks.
I just wanted to point out really quickly, I think it's O2A and B, the Troy Historic Village Master Plan. I had the pleasure of actually visiting the Troy Historic Village in person at another event earlier this year and see the master plan presented by Jen. And it's great. I'm excited for all the things that are happening there, and thank you for presenting this to us. And I think there's some exciting things that are going on, so I just encourage people to take a look at that. Also with the Troy Nature Society, just looking at the revenue as compared 2022 to 2023, it's great to see increased revenue at the Troy Nature Society as well, because that is wonderful things for our treasured communities that we serve here, so thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks. Additional comments on the reports? All right. Next up is council comments. Anyone have council comments? Councilmember Hamilton. Sorry.
I just want to welcome Councilmember Chanda to council. I know both you and Councilmember Gunn not really going to have much time to really get your feet wet because we're hiring a new city manager and we got a lot of pressing business on the agenda, but it's glad to have you aboard, and I know you'll bring a wonderful perspective to our council, and I look forward to your work.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Councilmember Gunn?
I also want to welcome you, Rock, and please trust me, my vote was not against you. It was more about the procedure. but the fact that you're a Michigan man and not from Ohio State, all for you.
All right.
Thank you. Sorry,
Mending fences. Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to welcome and congratulate Harak. I had a wonderful, obviously I ran with you on the slate, so I really know your work ethic, and I know how much you've really put in to try to understand the issues coming into City Council, so I really appreciate that. You were at the Advance this weekend, so I really, appreciate your efforts to really understand and learn, and I know that you will bring that to Council while you are here, so thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks. Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
Want to echo the comments of my colleagues, and I'm excited that you're filling the position and that the voters selected you to essentially, I firmly believe the numbers told us what to do here tonight. But the bonus is, and I commented on this actually during the campaign, that you bring to this seat that engineering mindset. When I've met with you and talked with you, you have a logic, a pragmatism to you, and just the heart for the city of Troy. The seat you're filling is Councilwoman, now Commissioner, Ann Erickson-Galtz, and she very much did the same. And those are shoes that I fully expect that you'll slip into just very nicely and very appropriately. And I regret that we're losing Ann Erickson-Galtz at this table, but I do feel like you will be a very wonderful fit for the position. So congratulations. Welcome to both of our new councilmen.
Well, we flipped the men versus women.
That's 4-3 now.
You're not supposed to say that, Mark.
Speaking for myself, but I know my colleagues and their personalities, anything we can do to help you, find the restroom, all the little things behind the scenes that can be, how do you update your password? And there's a lot more to it than people realize. And I'm mentioning some of the trivia, but just the administrative pieces, we're it. We don't have a staff, we don't have drivers, we don't even have an office in City Hall. We each do this, and it's, when you step into the roles, it's the little things that can make it overwhelming. So anything we can do to ease your onboarding and transition, I know all of us are more than happy to help you, meet with you, talk with you, and I look forward to working with both of you.
Thank you.
You're stuck with us nerds over here. So.
I know.
Change the seats. Just kidding. Councilmember Chamberlain-Crango, do you have anything to add? You spoke a little bit during the appointment.
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Harak, congratulations. I wish I could be there in person to shake your hand one-on-one, but glad for you to join all of us to be a part of the team. As we've said, we may not always agree, but I feel like we are a team and we work together for the good of the city. You've already shown that you have a deep commitment to the city by coming to council meetings, by serving on committees for the city, and by being at our Advance at 8 a.m. on Saturday until 4 p.m. to really learn about some of the deepest issues facing the city. So I look forward to serving with you and look forward to all the possibilities ahead for our great city.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain-Crango. Councilmember Chanda, I'll say I welcome you, of course, to the table. I don't know you very well. Ironically, I wasn't out a lot during the campaign period, for good reason, thankfully for me. But I saw you at a lot of events, but we didn't get to know each other very well. I really do look forward to getting to know you. My goal always with our team is to be a team as best we can. And we all have different styles of how we do things, and we all have different senses of humor and all different skill sets and backgrounds and stories. And I think the best part about our council is when we can all bring all of that together. And I know you've got a lot of friends up here already, and you've got a lot of friends in the community that we're excited that you're up here. I look forward to working with you and to learning more about how you click and the things that you're truly passionate about up here and what we can do to work together on certain things. And I really am thankful we're past this process and moving back into the regular businesses of the city. And I really am thankful for having a a solid council here together, a solid team. Looks and feels good up here to me, so I'm very excited about that. So, happy to give you a few, if you'd like to say anything. Sure, everybody left, but you know, it'll live on YouTube.
First of all, I want to start off thanking the council and my new colleagues for appointing me. It's a big honor, to trust me with to represent the citizens of Troy and be a council member. So thank you. That is a big honor. And then for those who came here today, this is, and I'm really overwhelmed. I have never seen so many people coming for me or probably for anyone. So I don't know, any words cannot express the gratitude that I feel for those who came here today, took the time to, speak on my behalf. So I would just say thank you, and thank you. It is, I've said many times, Troy is a city of inclusion and optimism. That spirit was truly on display today. So, and I'm also very proud to be the first Indian American, probably the first immigrant to be in the council of a city that, that prides itself for being the most diverse city in Michigan. So I look forward to working with all of you. We each bring different perspective, different skill sets, but at the end of the day, we are looking at problems that are, not left or right, or, Asian or other ethnicity. We are looking at numbers, problems that are staring at us, and we'll be solving that with problem-solving mindset, and, for the betterment of our city, the city that we all like and we all love. Essentially, that's why I live here. So look forward to the opportunity, and, and again, thank you, and excited to be here.
Thank you, Councilmember Chanda. City Manager Miller, and our next meeting, I think we have new members of council. I think it's appropriate to have one of our security briefings. Is that possible? I think it's a good idea. It's been a while, and we have 2 new members.
Well, and I'm glad you called on me, because I wanted to, we have a meeting in a week, the 11th, and we're going to have the photographer here. So you'll get a notice to come early to get your photo, and then we'll have an onboarding process for Councilman Chandra.
Very good.
Before the meeting. Okay?
Okay, thank you. I can't remember if I had other actual comments aside from this night, but I don't think so. I'll save them for next week. So we don't have anyone signed up for public comment for items on or not on the agenda for members outside of the public or outside of Troy, and we don't have a closed session this evening. So with that, we are adjourned.